Hello, everyone. Emotional eating to me is an intricate dance between our feelings and our food that often sneaks in quietly during the most stressful time in our lives. It's not just the act of eating, it's the comforting embrace of a warm cookie after a long, hard day, or the soothing sip of a rich latte, and we can all relate to that, when the world feels a little too overwhelming. However, what starts as an innocent effort to fill an emotional void can inadvertently create a cycle of dependency where food becomes the immediate go to for dealing with emotions rather than truly addressing them. Understanding the delicate balance of emotional eating means exploring the intricate web of our inner emotions and the external triggers that brings us back to the comforting arms of our favorite comfort foods. Recognizing the difference between physical hunger and emotional need is the key to breaking free from its grasp and finding healthier, more fulfilling alternatives to emotionally challenging situations. Welcome to the High Blood Pressure Wellness Lifestyle Podcast, your hub for embracing vibrant health and empowering transformations. I am Donna Williams, your host and a certified holistic health coach with a fervent commitment to guiding you toward a healthier, more balanced life. Specializing in mindful, practical approaches to wellness, I focus on demystifying chronic disease management, particularly for women of color. Through this podcast and my online platform, info on highbloodpressure.com, I aim to provide you with actionable insights and strategies that elevate your well-being. Join me as we explore holistic health solutions that go far beyond mere diet changes, fostering a lifelong journey of proactive wellness and personal empowerment. So let's embark on this path together, one mindful step at a time. Today's topic is unraveling the heartstrings of hunger, how emotional eating shapes our lives with Jillian Scott. Jillian Scott is a certified trauma informed life and health coach, the mastermind behind the Hungry for Love podcast, and the visionary founder of the Body You Crave website. Her impactful tagline that I saw on her website that I happen to love, it says, "End the war with food and stop hating your body. I'll show you how." It encompasses her missions to transform lives with a focus on empowering clients to heal from emotionally abusive relationships. She guides them towards a healthier relationship with food and body, fostering self confidence and belief. So please welcome the remarkable Jillian Scott, a master life and weight loss coach whose Body You Crave method is tailor made for high caliber, bear with me, high caliber individuals seeking sustainable weight loss while enjoying the foods they love. So, Jillian, can you start us off by defining what emotional eating is and how it differs from regular hunger driven eating?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Donna, for that beautiful intro and for having me here on this show to talk about something like emotional eating. And this is something where we can have a lot of misconceptions about it. Some people think it's an eating disorder. When I bring it up, some people will get very defensive and they would say things like, how dare you think I have an eating disorder? Or how dare you think I do that? And really, emotional eating is something that pretty much everybody, like we all do it at different points. The question is to what extent and how often. And so I think of emotional eating as a coping mechanism. It's a way for us to feel better in the moment. And so that's all that happens is our brain has learned that food creates a rapid, reliable, effective sense of relief. And so we have learned that, oh, if I'm in this stressful state and I want to relax and unwind, I can open a bag of chips or I can open the freezer and get some ice cream. If you are feeling, maybe you're feeling a little bored or a little, maybe you're procrastinating. I call it procrastinacking, where we might go to the pantry and we're like, don't really want to do that task. So let me grab a snack and then I'll do the thing. Then I'll do the work. Then I'll do the assignment. So this might look like, going to the break room midday for a little pick me up, something to kind of spice up your life. And sometimes it's that the food becomes the highlight of our day. Food is something that we look forward to and we think about most. And that often stems from chronic dieting and having a history of food being good or bad, certain food being off limits. And so there's this high emotional value that's placed on the food. So it's very nuanced for people. So it looks different in different lives in different ways. We can pick up this habit from a myriad of ways, but really it's a way that we are trying to feel better in the moment is how I like to describe it.
I love that because for me, especially in the winter months, I reach for comfort foods.
Yes.
And then at other times when life challenges us,
Mhm.
we, it's not depression, I would say, but there is this something that you have to soothe
Yep.
and you go crazy.
Yeah.
But we have to learn to deal with it a different way. But what are some of the common emotional triggers that prompt individuals to turn to food? Are there specific emotions more strongly linked to emotional eating?
That's a great question. So there are some common ones that are going to be the most like most of the drivers. Number one would be stress. Stress is a very common one where whenever we feel stress, we feel pressure. Think about if you are driving to work, maybe you're taking your child or your grandchild to preschool or to school and there's traffic and they don't want to get buckled in their seatbelt and you're kind of frantic, you're running late to a meeting. And so it's like our anxiety gets kind of popped up. And so we're under this stress state. Our cortisol has increased. And now it's like we're looking for a way to like re-regulate our nervous system and to bring it back down. And so often, because there's such an abundance of food, which is such a blessing, but now it's because it's everywhere and we can stop at the gas station, at fast food, we can go into the break room, walking into your office, maybe there's a candy dish with the receptionist. There's so many things where it's so easy to just pass by food and we do it so subconsciously. A lot of times I think this is done on autopilot. It's not done with an intention of like, I need to feel better in the moment. It's done out of habit. And so I think that's the beautiful thing is that the more we can recognize this is a habit that I learned, it's a habit I can unlearn. And so now by recognizing the emotions that drive it, like you were saying, now we can start to catch it faster and be prepared for it. So stress is going to be a really common one. Loneliness comes up as a common one. Whether you are single or married, you can still feel very lonely in your relationship. You can feel very busy. You could be sitting in church surrounded by hundreds of people and feel so lonely. And we don't want to make these emotions bad or wrong. We just want to recognize when we are avoiding them. And so typically they're going to be negative emotions like that. So anger, loneliness, sadness, um, and stress, those are going to be some of your common ones. Sometimes it might be something like anxiety or depression, but we also reach for food emotionally when we're celebrating. So it might be I'm having such a good time. I don't want this night to end. This is so good. Or it's free. It's her birthday. I don't want to be rude and not have a piece of cake. I better have more. And in certain cultures, it's you go back for seconds. The more you eat, the more it's a compliment to the chef. So we've got all different kinds of aspects around culture and what's appropriate and acceptable for you to be how you behave, how you show your gratitude to the chef, even to money of like, I don't want to waste it. I don't want to throw it away. So I'm going to eat the food. But so it's those I would say are often the most common. And shame is kind of this undercurrent that underpins so much of the shame, the judgment, the I shouldn't be dealing with this should be better by now, I should have a different job. Anytime we feel like we're not measuring up, we think life should be different, um, then we often get into shame where it may not be in the forefront of your mind, but it's this undercurrent of belief. And so when that is running 24/7, when that is what's really under the surface, nothing bad has to have happened during the day. You might just be thinking, I'm stuck in a job that I don't love, I'm with a spouse who doesn't treat me well, or I'm struggling in my parenting and my kids hate me, or I don't know how to deal with this rebellious teenager, or right, there can be any number of things that trigger that shame button. And so shame drives us to hide. We want to hide and escape. And so the shame is often a big trigger. We just don't always think about it as much as we might think of um, anger, loneliness, stress, those types of emotions.
Oh, yes. We are, I don't want to say we are messed up in our minds, but stress, I know, is number one.
Hmm.
Shame, I never really thought of it that way as how you put it.
Hmm. Hmm.
But to be honest, it's there.
Hmm.
But what
Yeah.
has connected with me is the cultural perspective.
Hmm. Hmm.
How
Yeah.
does emotional eating vary across different cultures?
Hmm.
Are there universal trends, or does culture play a significant role in shaping these behaviors?
So culture definitely, trauma, I would say more so. So when we look back over history and we look at, if we go back about 100 years, we're now in the, 1920s, and it's the roaring 20s, right? But we've had World War One. We've had some recent wars. If we just look at US history too, if we're just talking about kind of the US, we've had a couple of recent wars. Food is not anywhere and everywhere. We are still a fairly agricultural society. We still are very communal. But then we get into not just World War One, but we have the Great Depression, we have famine, we have World War Two, we have now PTSD, we have trauma, like people who are going overseas who are coming back with vast amounts of trauma, and we called it shell shock. But really, it's right, and it's trauma. It's what they experienced, and there was not the mental health and mental awareness that is available to us today. And even now with our military, there is such a stigma around mental health, and they're terrified they're going to lose their jobs if they talk with a therapist or a psychologist, or there's still so much that really is wrapped up in it. But if we think about this now, it's, well, I don't know when I'm going to eat next. The food might disappear, it might go away. We may not have the money to be able to pay for food. And so there can be a lot around emotional eating of like, get it while the getting's good. Overeat, fill up, get your money's worth. You go into that buffet's $25. You better eat $35 if you want to make this count, right? And so we go to these restaurants and we stuff ourselves. But even the concept of clean your plate comes from really well-meaning parents, grandparents, great grandparents. And then you start to think about all of our like ancestors who came over from different parts of the world. My ex-husband's father is from Chile, actually. And so he like very much remembers going to bed hungry during the communist revolution. And so, even as we think about, we are such a melting pot, which is beautiful. And the challenge is now we bring a lot of trauma from outside. We bring it all. And now so many of us are not even just dealing with it in our own lives, but we're passing it down. And so there's this intergenerational pattern of trauma that gets carried down and that has us in these different thought patterns that are, we're turning to food to feel better. We're turning to food to avoid and to numb out. We're turning, and sometimes it's, you may have like I remember a I think it was my great grandfather. He would be yelling and angry. And so then he passed that on to his son, who was yelling and angry, who passed it on to my dad, who was yelling and angry. Or on the flip side was more, and this would fall into the emotional abuse category of withdrawn. And it's now, I'm going to give you the silent treatment and I'm going to withdraw my love and withdraw my affection. And so it is never just about the food, right? There's the how do I handle the urge and the desire for food in the moment, but we also have to look at what is that deeper undercurrent? What's the deeper beliefs, the deeper values, how you see yourself and your self concept that's running your brain every single day. And there's those aspects that have us turning to food or even thinking food is going to solve this, food is going to help me. And so we really need that two-pronged approach. So sometimes it is culture, and it might be, whenever we're celebrating, we have lots of food, we eat a lot, we eat till we are stuffed and we can't eat anymore, right? It's kind of like Thanksgiving in the US, how a lot of times that's our approach is like, how much can we eat? How stuffed can we get? Versus recognizing I can make a Thanksgiving meal in July if I want to, like I can have this food literally anytime. And but sometimes it is a cultural thing, sometimes it's a family thing. Sometimes there's trauma that is passed down. And sometimes it is that, we want to have fun. This is how we do it. And recognizing like how you grew up, it's not just what happened, it's what you made it mean. And that's how I think of trauma is it's not just what you saw, what you experienced, what you witnessed. It's now what you made that mean moving forward. And that's where we can really own our power and recognize it's not about the food. It's about what's the story I'm telling about myself and who I am.
Yes, and societal norms
Yeah.
influence us strongly. But most of all, I think trauma, and it crosses every culture in
Yeah.
different forms.
Yeah.
There is
Right.
no escaping.
Right.
We are all experiencing trauma, just in
Hmm.
different forms. But
Yep.
the problem is how we handle it.
Yes.
Lots
Yes.
of it comes from the connections of childhood and emotional eating, and it develops into a pattern right
Mm-hmm.
up into adulthood. And in
Hmm.
case you don't become conscious of it or more aware of what you're doing, you cannot see it
Hmm.
or correct it. I
Hmm.
mean, you can't do it
Right.
because
Right.
it's your norm, so it's not wrong.
Right, right,
You know,
exactly, and it's
it's not
so
wrong.
right, and this is where I was actually just talking about self-forgiveness. I was talking with a couple clients about
That
this
is
because
so tough.
right, we have to forgive ourselves for what we didn't see, for what we didn't know was a
No,
problem, right? We have to forgive ourselves for I was showing up in my trauma response to somebody who was showing up in his trauma response, and it was not a healthy dynamic, it was very dysfunctional, and I'm thinking about my
but we don't
marriage in
even know we're
particular.
in trauma.
And we don't know, right? We can't see it. We don't know. And then it's like this great awakening. And I think one of the beautiful sides of the internet is like we have more um just this like more information. We can share ideas more easily. And I think that is one of the huge benefits is there is now this awakening to things that maybe didn't sit right in your spirit where you're like, I don't get this. This doesn't make sense. But and it doesn't feel right, but I can't pinpoint why. Like I can't figure out why it feels wrong, why it makes me so uncomfortable.
We
And
didn't have permission to even discuss it.
right, right, right. And this is where we want to be mindful too. And I know you've mentioned God and even within the church and what can we talk about in the church and looking at well this is what God says about certain things and well does it say it in the Bible and there's
But I think it is certain things are said in the Bible, but we all interpret it differently.
mhm, mhm. Yep.
It doesn't necessarily mean you must be punitive,
Right.
or
Right.
whatever issue they interpret it as.
Yeah.
But what is amazing, can positive emotions also trigger this behavior?
For emotional eating.
Yes, and
Uh-huh.
how we act.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Yeah. So if it's a like and sometimes it's just kind of conditioned, right? You score a goal as a kid playing soccer or you make so many baskets in basketball and now we go out for ice cream. You get an A on this class, now we go for a treat. Now we go get something, right? And so sometimes we're just used to that of like I got a promotion, I got a new
Let's go
job.
celebrate.
Yes, and we celebrate so often with food. And it could be
Yes,
food or alcohol, but it
yes.
becomes this like we're celebrating even
Food
with
is
something like
always there.
right. And even like travel, vacation, right? You might be on a really good eating plan and you're like, eating really healthy, doing really well, but now you're on vacation and it's like screw it. Now I'm on
Well,
vacation.
when I'm
I'm
on vacation, I expect to put on some pounds. When
right.
I return home, I can go back to my norms of balancing my weight. Sometimes, you
Right.
know what I do? I would make sure and lose some weight before I go. If it eat
Yeah.
and don't feel guilty.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like so many of us are used to that though, but we're then afraid. So now not only we don't take our healthy eating habits with us, like there are so many things like the way that I teach weight loss and emotional eating and healing that is really this is something you can take with you anywhere. You can go on vacation, you can go on a cruise, you can go anywhere around the world and you can still take your habits with you because I'm listening to my body. I'm going to eat when I'm hungry. I'm going to stop when I'm satisfied. I'm going to ask and I'm going to question, am I hungry here? And that is one of the first steps to start thinking about like, am I hungry? Like, am I physically hungry? And I don't think I quite answered that question earlier when you asked of like
Oh
physical
no,
hunger versus
it's
emotional
fine.
hunger.
Yes, you did in so many
Yeah.
forms.
Right? But like, even walking into the kitchen, opening the refrigerator, anytime we eat, if we can start to question and ask ourselves, am I hungry? Now we're bringing awareness. So now if it's like, no, I'm not hungry. Why am I in the pantry? Why am I in the kitchen? Now we can start to question that from a loving place, not judgment, not shame, but really getting curious of like, oh, that's interesting. I'm not hungry, yet I've opened up the pantry and I'm looking for what's to eat. What's going on? And I always tell clients too, I'm like, you have permission to eat, but we're going to eat eyes wide open. We're going to be very conscious now of like, I recognize I'm not hungry. I want food. I don't really know why. And I'm feeling a little anxious. And I just want that food to feel better right now. And even if you don't process it in that moment, being able to go back and do it afterwards, again, we have to let go of the shame and judgment and we really get curious and compassionate. Now we have to evaluate it and we have to really get clear on what was happening emotionally with my thoughts, what was going on, what was the drivers. Instead of just, again, with shame, we like to hide. Turn a blind eye, don't make eye contact, don't look at it, just pretend like it didn't happen. I'll try harder today. I'll restrict a little more today. I'll try to make up for it. And we get stuck in these cycles. And that's really the problem is it would be like I would restrict during the day, then I would binge at night. Then I would feel so much shame and regret. So I'd restrict again the next day. And this time, got to do it harder. And we end up in this restrict, binge, regret cycle where we do this loop day after day or week after week. And we feel like we're constantly dieting, constant restricting, but not seeing the change in our body, not seeing the change in our health markers and the things that we're looking for.
It's a psychologically consequences we are facing. But I think that is good
Yeah.
because at least you sort of connected deep within you, like
Yeah.
mental awareness,
Yeah.
a psychologist, psychological well-being tests or connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's talk about digital age. I
Hmm.
mean, how does the portrayal of food and bodies on social media platforms impact emotional eating habits? Because when you see on social media, the food looks so colorful, so delicious. I am
Yes.
not hungry. And let me tell you, it has triggered me like, oh my God, I want to have that.
Right.
I want to taste it. What do you do?
Yes, yes. Well, and I think this is really good too to bring up like food and how it can trigger that desire and also looking at other people's bodies. And I think there are, it's like anyone in the health, fitness, weight loss space, a lot of times it's like we might see before and afters, but we see a body that maybe doesn't look like ours. And when we look at magazines, movies, TV shows, while there is some variance in shape now, I think we are starting to, there is
See a
some
difference, which
changes.
is more healthy.
Yes.
Mhm.
But we often are given a specific type, like body shape. I am like 5'3". I'm fairly short. I have more of an athletic, kind of narrow build. I don't have a narrow waist. I don't have hips. I don't have a big bust. Like I don't have that hourglass figure. I will never look like a Victoria's Secret supermodel. Like I never. And can I be okay? And it's like really truly be at peace and acceptance with this is me. This is my version of beautiful. This is my version of amazing. And somebody like, I think about like Kim Kardashian, who's really owned, I've got a big booty. I've got big
She
curves, like,
celebrates it, and I love it.
right.
He's not allowing anyone to make her feel bad.
Right, right. And so, and we really want to do that too. And so it's like, and also look at the flip side. I've got a girlfriend who she is almost 40 and she is like, I have the figure of a 10-year-old boy. I don't have curves. I don't have the big booty. I don't have that. And so for her, she's like, I struggle to feel feminine when I don't have what's typically a feminine or these feminine curves or this body shape. So we can feel it whether it's how tall we are, how wide we are, how narrow, like body image it will impact all of us. And men, this is also a factor for men because men are not told to be skinny. That is an insult, right? If they look skinny, that's a bad thing. They want to be jacked and ripped and shredded, and you want this V shape with like broad shoulders. And not all men have that shape, and that's okay. It's like really owning your character, your value, your integrity, and deciding like here's the shape that I like, and being willing to, if you do want to put on muscle or if you do want to lose some body fat, like there's nothing wrong with wanting to change how we look. The thing that I'm always talking about though is do it from a place of self-love, not from a place of comparison of like I've got to look like her on social media or I'm not good enough if I don't have six-pack abs. It really has to be I want to love myself more, and by loving myself, I know maybe I need to lose 20 or 30 pounds. Maybe my body is just I am carrying too excess weight and I want this. Maybe you are on the slimmer side and you're like, I do want to gain some muscle mass. I do want, like I do want these things. But let's do it from I love myself and I love who I am and I am good enough just as I am right now. And I'm going to pursue these other things because it makes me happy, because it's going to help me to live longer. It's going to help improve my health, and not decrease. It's not in a I have to feel good about myself, right? It's like I already feel good about myself. Now we can make some changes versus my happiness is dependent on the scale or my happiness is dependent on what size I'm wearing that day.
Yes, but I know this is going to sound so bad of me, but men don't have the same pressure as women. Women, from the day we are born, the pressure is on for us to look a certain way. Men can get away with whatever. But for me, I believe, and from research, I've confirmed this. It doesn't matter your body weight so long as you are healthy, because you have lots of people
Hmm.
who doesn't meet the BMI category
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they are healthy. They're not on any medication or anything.
Hmm.
They are healthy. But what are some effective interventions or therapeutic approaches that you have used or can suggest can help individuals tackle emotional eating?
Yeah. So so a lot of this is going to be mindset, and then another piece is going to be emotional, your emotional awareness, and the somatic body work to be able to regulate your nervous system, because a lot of times that's what's happening. And so you're right. And for most of my life when I was binge eating and emotional eating, I might have only been 5 or 10 pounds overweight. I may not have had that much weight to lose, yet I had such a dysfunctional relationship with food and my body and how I saw myself. And so you bring up a really good point of like, it's not just what we see on the outside, because to most people, I looked great on the outside. And yet I was at war on the inside. I was struggling so hard. And so we really want to be able to, one, start to understand what are my permission giving thoughts to eat when I'm not hungry? Because usually there's permission somewhere. It's this tastes really good. I want it. It's a special occasion. Sometimes it's, I just want to relax. I want to unwind. I want to de stress. It's that like, oh, the kids are finally in bed. Now I can sit down and I can recoup, I can regroup, or now I can connect with my spouse. And sometimes it is just that habit of like, we're just used to connecting in bed over TV with a snack, and we just have to become aware. So we need one awareness of like, what is the pattern? Can we see the pattern for what it is and not run and hide from it? Number two is going to be starting to identify, am I truly hungry? And then number three is if I'm not hungry and I'm reaching for the food, why? Like what emotions are coming up? What emotions am I trying to escape or create more of? And then what is that permissive thought? Because usually there's something there that's like a little bit won't hurt. You can have some. You did so good. You worked so hard. It was such a stressful week. You deserve a break. So it's like we really want to be aware of like what is our brain telling us because that's how it's getting its needs met. And we don't need to shame ourselves for it. But just like you said in the intro, like it's a codependent behavior. So we can have codependence on people, just like we can have codependence on food or alcohol or drugs, right? And so it's like, I don't believe you're addicted to food. I believe we just have a dependence if I look for it to make me feel better. So that's one aspect is really starting to understand how do we approach it in the moment? How do we unwind that pattern and that habit? The other aspect, though, is I have to create a life full of love, joy, adventure, excitement so that I'm not looking for it in food at the end of the night. Like, I need to be intentional about what are the hobbies that I like? What's a job that I like? Am I surrounding myself with people that I love and want to be around? Because if not, if you go through your entire day dreading the people, dreading the work, feeling stuck, feeling frustrated, and we have nothing else to look forward to but the food, it's going to be really hard to let go of that food. But when I now get to experience fun and excitement and pleasure and joy in my life as a whole, I don't need the food to fill that void. Food does not become that primary source. So those are like the two different aspects that we need to address. We need to address both the in the moment plus what's driving that.
I agree with you, especially around the food choices. But let me give you a great story. Um, my family, I am from a large family and we travel from time to time, but at least every other year we go out together as a group. We travel as a
Mhm.
group. And I look forward to my ice cream and stuff. And I was with one of my sisters, and there was ice cream, and I'm ready to enjoy my ice cream, even half a scoop. And you
Yeah.
know what she did? She put the ice cream in her mouth, roll it around her tongue, spit it out, and just taste the rest in her mouth. And that was it. I nearly went crazy. Who does that? Who does that? And
Yeah.
I just moved away from her and went and enjoyed my ice cream. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Because it's not every day I have it. I'm on
Yeah.
vacation, I'm enjoying. So I gave myself permission
Uh-huh.
and I felt no guilt. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I
Mhm.
was not going to restrict myself. I didn't question her decisions,
Mhm.
but to me, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Are there particularly types of food that people are more likely to consume when emotionally eating? And why is this the case?
Yeah, great question. So I had it on a sales page or on my website at one point, but it was like, "You're not binging on broccolini and cauliflower rice," right?
Ah,
Like and I think about it and what would I be binging on? It's snack food, it's crackers, it's peanut butter, it's high calorie, it's high energy food or quick energy food. So usually we're talking junk food, snack food, chips, crackers, it might be, snacks like cookies, ice cream, candy. And this is where again, our brains are often looking for quick energy, fast energy. We're looking that's, very palatable. And while we
could
can
it be the
be
sugar? Could
it
it
could
be
be the
the sugar?
sugar, yeah. So and it might be that, and we can overeat at meals. Sometimes we are overeating if it's broccoli and cauliflower rice, but typically, if we're overeating, it's gonna be pasta, pizza, burgers, fries. It's gonna be even what we would consider unhealthy food. And so this is really good to be aware of when we actually eliminate the restriction, then binging decreases. Because when I know I can have ice cream tonight and the night after and the night after, I can have a portion and want more and tell myself it's okay that you want more. You get more tomorrow. You can have more the next day. And so I don't need to eat all 4 bars of the ice cream pack tonight because oops, I'm bad and I've eaten ice cream, right? So a lot of this is how we're thinking about food as a whole and recognizing, yeah, like that's what we're going for when we're emotionally eating. It's going to be chips, maybe popcorn, nuts, things that are salty and things that are sweet. And sometimes it's even a mix of both. So we'll go sweet to salty, sweet to salty. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. So, how can someone distinguish between cravings caused by emotional hunger
Hmm.
and genuine physical hunger?
Yep. So typically in our body, we just have to tune in more and become more aware of what does hunger feel like in my body. And so I think we have this kind of misconception of hunger. It looks like your stomach growling, and that's it. When really hunger might be, you might get a headache. You might feel a little restless. It might feel a little hard to focus and concentrate. Your stomach may feel empty. It may start growling, where like the what's in your stomach, they're like little, I think of them as like rollers. They're like rolling over one another. And that's where we kind of get the noise from. But everybody's going to have different physical sensations. And so we want to just recognize number one, it's okay if I get a little hungry. That's where I want to be when I eat. One of the problems is that we're afraid of hunger because of past diets we've been on where we've had to be hangry all day long. And so we have this aversion or this fear of like, well, I can't be hungry or I can't get too hungry. And really, it's like we want to allow and recognize, well, what does real hunger actually feel like in our bodies? And we're not just eating by the clock. We're not eating first thing in the morning because we're supposed to. It's an actual, I'm hungry and I'm ready to eat. And so this is where it takes some experimentation, and we're going to learn this. We're going to listen to our bodies and we're going to find that little sweet spot of like, okay, I'm hungry, but I'm not overly hungry, right? I don't want somebody who's so hungry that they're about to pass out or they want to punch me in the face. Like there are certain things where it's like we have to really just listen for this is what my body is saying. And then on the flip side of stopping at satisfied. Because if you eat quickly, let's say you eat a meal in like 5 minutes, which some of us can do, right? Five, six
Yes,
minutes, and
yes.
you're still hungry, it's like, okay, now we need to pause. And before going for seconds, I always tell people wait 20 minutes, go do something else. So if you're sitting at a table with somebody, have a conversation, talk to them, get your mind off of the food. If you are at the office, if you are at home, go do something else for like 20 minutes, take your mind off of the food, and then reevaluate. Am I still hungry? Because most of the time, we're not hungry. Like I could eat a good portion of food, but my body still feels hungry because my stomach and brain are not syncing just yet. It takes 20 to 30 minutes for that to happen. So we need that pause. Otherwise, we think that we're still hungry and we're not. And and that's when we get overly full. Or, if you think back, I don't know about you, but it's like if you took seconds, some kids grow up where it's like if you took seconds, you had to eat all of it. And sometimes we don't have that pause. So you get more food as seconds, but now you have to clean your plate. And now you're actually really not that hungry. And so I think this is really hard with kids, but something we want to teach them as well, or for grandkids, is like, listen to your body. Are you physically hungry? And if my son, who is 4, if he's not hungry for more of his dinner, but he's hungry for ice cream, then it's like, well, are you really hungry? Are you really satisfied? Have you truly had enough food? Um, and there are times when he loves a California roll. So we'll go get sushi. And I know his little body eating some of my ginger salad, and he'll have the miso soup sometimes. And that one California roll is plenty for him. He's still going to ask for more, but I will always tell him, like, honey, I know it tastes really good. He loves sushi and trying to use the chopsticks. And so I'm like, I know you just have fun with this and you're enjoying, this experience, but I know you're not hungry. So we're going to go home. And if you're still truly hungry at home and you want some fruit, I'll get you some fruit, but you don't need another sushi roll, And so it's just kind of teaching them this, and it's treating ourselves like that too. It's like, no, I've had my 1 or 1.5 sushi rolls. This was plenty. If you're still hungry when you get home, Jilly Bean, like you can go have a piece of fruit. You can go have a little I usually have ice cream bars or dark chocolate or something where it's like if I still wanted something little, I can have that. But it's that willingness to kind of negotiate with yourself for what you want, for what you truly want, not just in the moment what you want, what your like real goals are. Yeah.
But your son, he's just copying you. He
Yeah.
sees you eating it and he wants to, whatever you're doing, whatever
Yeah.
mommy's doing, let's copy it.
Yes. Right.
But what are the potential for long-term health implications of chronic emotional eating?
So this is where, I mean, a lot of times it is we're going to gain weight. We're going to struggle to lose the weight. We're not often this will increase. It can increase our blood sugar levels. It can cause other health conditions and health concerns, especially if you also have a family history of it. And so it's one of those things where over a prolonged period of time, it just deteriorates your health. And it's not just the physical health, it's the mental, emotional health. Because what we're doing when we're emotionally eating is trying to stuff down the negative emotions, and they want to be expressed. They want to come through. And so either we just keep stuffing, keep avoiding, don't feel, which is not how God designed us, or, and then often what happens on the flip side of that is then we explode. So we explode in this big outburst. We're really angry. Sometimes there's a lot of tears, but it's like we hit this breaking point where we can't hold it and stuff it down anymore. It has to come out. And with prolonged emotional stuffing, that often actually leads to autoimmune diseases. So, what we've started to find is a link between emotional abuse and coping mechanisms around emotional abuse, which can be emotional eating, and now this autoimmune disease where your body is in it essentially attacking itself. And it is, I don't know that we can find causation, but there's a lot of correlation to people. And I've seen this in with my own clients is people who have some kind of autoimmune disease, and they've also been exposed to many toxic relationships, often in childhood and then often in marriage for many decades. And so this is where we really want to be aware of the implications. And this is why it's not just about the food and it's not just kind of what we're experiencing physically, it's the emotional side of things of like how emotionally aware and intelligent are you? How do you feel like you're able to take care of your emotional needs? And recognizing there are going to be phases and there's going to be cycles where sometimes we just feel more emotional than others, but it's a good thing to process through. It's a good thing to let the anger out. It's a good thing to let the tears out, and finding, like you were saying, finding healthy ways to do that where we're not lashing out at a partner, we're not lashing out at a grandkid. We are expressing that and we're completing that nervous system loop, but in a productive, useful way, not out of not like an in the moment reaction.
That is amazing. But is there any personal or poignant stories about individuals struggling with or overcoming emotional eating?
Yes. I
Do
mean,
you ever
this is
really overcome
I
it?
so I like I struggled with emotional eating for a long time. And this was something where I was a binge eater for about 14 years. And there were periods where sometimes it was heavier, sometimes it was less. It kind of depended on where I was in life, what was happening. But I noticed I was emotionally eating a lot. And when I was in a job, I was working as a nanny for a wealthy family in DC. And I was basically like a chauffeur. Wasn't a hard job. It was pretty easy, but I didn't love it. I was not using my gifts and strengths. And I felt like, why do you have me here, God, when this is not what I want to be doing? And yet, that's where he had me. And I was applying for other jobs and getting rejected. And I was so frustrated. And I eventually, after about a year, I did find another job, but I was eating. Most afternoons, I was overeating and emotionally eating because I felt stuck and frustrated. And it was like, okay, well, if I could just change this job, then I can change the habit. So I found a new job, and the emotional eating kind of subsided for a couple weeks, maybe even like a couple months, probably not more than like 2, max 3 months. And then I found myself still overeating at lunch, emotionally eating through the afternoon, snacking at dinner, like still in that same habit. So then I thought, well, maybe I, it's because I want to have my own business and I don't want to be in a job. So then the next year I was in my business full time, still emotionally eating, because it's not just about changing the circumstance, it's understanding what really is driving that pattern. Yep, can I change how I see myself, how I value myself? Can I be open to the emotions? And also recognizing I was still in a really dysfunctional marriage at that time, and I didn't realize that that was often at the core of my emotional eating and my discontentment, my frustration, different things that I was feeling. And it's not to blame him. I'm the one who is eating, right? And this is where it's like I'm the one putting food in my mouth. It's not jumping out and jumping into my mouth. It is not, like nobody is holding me down and force feeding me. I'm not trying to blame anybody, but recognizing, oh, when I
Just
felt
blame the food. It's
right, yeah.
looking too good.
But like when I felt disconnected, when I didn't feel like we were intimate and like had an emotional intimate connection, then like physically I don't really want to be intimate, and it just creates this ripple effect of like I'm a bother, I'm a nuisance. maybe he doesn't care about me. And we kind of keep going in these cycles of it was me looking for somebody else to make me feel better about myself. I looked to my ex-husband. Then after the divorce, I looked to other men in dating. And it was like, if they are attracted to me, if I get their attention, now I can feel good about me. Right. And it's just that misplaced, I call it misplaced responsibility. Sometimes we put it on food, sometimes we put it on people. And so this is where we want to understand the pattern because I stopped emotionally eating and binge eating, but then I was like emotionally dating. Then I was like on a dating app where it was kind of that hit of dopamine of like somebody thinks you're special,
Bit
somebody
of
now
that
likes you.
emotionally dating?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
So it's, yep, we are looking for that hit of dopamine. So just like with food, we're looking often for a hit of dopamine to feel better, to feel relaxed. I was doing that with a dating app of like, oh, this guy's interested in me. Oh, that's fun. That's exciting. I feel special. I feel chosen. And so when I could pinpoint the emotions that men were giving, that they were providing for me, now my job becomes to give myself those own emotions, to like be able to truly provide that for myself, not just to stop dating, right? Not just to take the dating out, just like we can't just take food out of the house and expect our relationship to heal. That's not what does it. We have to really change how we see food, how we see weight loss or health or whatever goal we're trying to achieve, how we see ourselves. And then we have to work on that same relationship with food when we bring it back in. So my thing was peanut butter. There was a time where I took peanut butter out of the house because I would kind of binge on it. I was trying to do low carb, low calorie, low fat all at the same time. Right. And so then it was like, my body's like, you're trying to starve me. You need some energy. So it goes for high energy, like nuts and nut butters. So there was a time where I took the peanut butter out of the house and I was like, I need to stop buying this so I can work on my relationship with all food and I can get comfortable eating carbs and feeling at peace with that. And then I bring the peanut butter back in and then it was the small individual serving cups of like, I'm going to bring it in pre-portioned. And then after this was maybe 6, 7 months later, it's back in the house and now I can buy it. And it's like, and now I'm not binging on it. And now I can have 2 containers in there that are open and I have a little bit every now and then. Sometimes I'll put some in my smoothie. Sometimes my son will have peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but it's one of those where like it doesn't have that hold on me. Not because I took it out of the house, because I really had to heal my relationship with food and with me. And so that's what we have to do too with anything, even if it's something like alcohol or if it is something like dating. Like I can stop dating, but if I'm still looking for men to meet needs in me, then I'm just going to go back to the same pattern, the same habit. So this is why, like, I think this is such a like we really I love that you're a holistic coach too of like we really have to look at life as a whole. We can't just do something in a vacuum and think this is what's going to solve it because so often how we do one thing is how we do everything.
We have to work on the inside of us
Yeah.
to help change, but it takes a lot to wake us up,
Yes.
to
Yes.
the awareness that this is how you're going to move forward because
Yeah.
we don't take the time to really sit with our emotions because it's sometimes it can be too much for us to handle
Hmm.
because it's so strong. So how did you go about support system? Because I can't imagine you did it all by yourself.
Right.
What the role did family and friends play in addressing your emotional eating behaviors?
Yeah. So I really tried to hide this from a lot of friends, a lot of family. I
But
think
they knew,
yes, they all
because
knew.
they
Right. They
they
all
all knew,
knew.
but they're not saying anything.
Yep, yep. And I think too, it's like we try to hide it. There's so much because there's so much shame. So we don't want to talk about it. And even if they don't know exactly what's happening, they still know something's not right, something's not normal or healthy about it. So but really for me, like I found a membership, I found a community, I hired a coach, and I had somebody to work with me on that accountability in a one-on-one capacity as well as within a group. And so I was able to listen to other people and their stories and what they were going through and take that and apply it to my life and how can I learn from this? And then I also had the ability every week to go through and to like really work on here's what I'm making this mean. Here's where what I have a hard time letting go of. Here's where I struggle to forgive myself. Here's where I struggle to accept myself or love myself right now and I feel like I'm not good enough. And it was really interesting because it was like, well, God can love me. Sure, Like, yeah, he's gonna love me no matter what,
Yes,
but
don't care
I can't
what.
love me, and so it was, like, really waking up to that, and it's hard when we have decades of this programming, and so that's why I always encourage people, get support. You can read books, but information does not equal transformation. So I always tell people, like, find a coach, find a mentor, find a community, find a membership, do something where you can get in there and get the help and support that you really want, and that accountability and the ability to just learn what to see what you haven't seen before, right? Like, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know that this is a red flag until somebody tells us it's a red flag or it's a problem, right? So it's like we need people on the outside to really show us and reflect back, like, this is the reality, or this is what's normal. This is not normal. This is not healthy.
What I find surprising about, or found surprising about coaching, is when you start to speak,
Mhm.
there are words or thoughts that comes out that I wasn't aware of prior to speaking
Yes.
it. And then that helps me to click. And then I
Yes.
realize, was I thinking that? Or where is that coming from? So
Mhm.
that is why we
Mhm.
need
Mhm.
supports and the community. We
Mhm.
have to
Mhm.
verbalize our thoughts to
Mhm.
help us bring the awareness forward. But
Yes.
how does men and women experience emotional eating differently? At least, do they? And what does the research say? Do they?
So that's actually a really great question. I work with both men and women, privately, and I
Just
would
a
say
question, just a quick question. Do you find the men more difficult?
no, I actually find it easier to work with men.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they always act like say they know everything. We tend to listen more, I think. I
Well,
who I'm
so
dealing with.
So and for the most part, the men who come to me, like, they've either been through some divorce, they've struggled to lose the weight, they've gone through some things where they are like, "Okay, I have an idea of how it's supposed to work, but it's not working like that," or "I need this accountability, something's not quite clicking," but they also recognize there is a level of emotional, maybe awareness or depth that they're lacking, and that's why they're hiring me, is to help them navigate this difficult season, to process the emotions, to become more aware of the coping mechanisms and what's showing up for themselves. So it might just be a little different in terms of, like, kind of how I'm helping them. But it is very much the same for men as it is for women. For men, I know for one of my male clients, for his, it was loneliness. He was really lonely in his marriage for so many years that he would eat to feel better, and then that continued after the marriage. So you can get divorced, and you might legally be divorced, but you haven't divorced their thoughts, your partner's thoughts from your brain. You haven't divorced the emotions that you attach to them. You haven't changed how you're getting your needs met, which is either from another person or maybe from food, and so a lot of it is so similar. So it might look a little different. And like his was loneliness. I have another female, many of my women clients, especially who are Christian, who have been divorced, they feel a lot of guilt. And their emotional eating stems from guilt over the divorce of, like, I ruined my kids. I failed my marriage. I failed my kids. Sometimes it might even be, I failed my husband. I couldn't keep us together. We now have a broken home. And I think it's part of it is that story around divorce. And when you grow up in the church and we hear stories and or like verses in the Bible, like in Micah, it says that God hates divorce. I think we have that line. And really, that verse has been translated a variety of different ways over the last several hundred years. And what God doesn't hate divorce. God actually hates the putting away of a woman. He hates when a woman is not given a divorce, because a divorce gave her back her dowry. It allowed her to marry. Gave her a sense of being able to be taken care of by somebody else. And yet we are using scripture to beat ourselves up, or other people are using scripture to beat somebody up emotionally, right? Or to instill guilt, to instill shame. So it may look a little different in terms of like what the exact emotions are that we're eating over, but so much of it is the same thing. It's, I'm not good enough. I did this horrible thing. I have failed in some way. And it is that struggle internally with ourselves, and it's the struggle kind of outside with other people.
That was amazing. The fact that you are aware, you know, we all know that religion is used in different forms and ways to
Mhm,
control us.
mhm,
But to feel that you have the power to say you want to step away
mhm,
because you have one life to live.
mhm,
And so you're entitled to your happiness or whatever without feeling guilty,
mhm.
especially if you have children. It is hard.
Yeah.
It is very hard, and we beat ourselves up.
Mhm.
But how does one professions or daily routine impact the likelihood of engaging in emotional eating?
Yeah, so I think it's, if you're feeling disgruntled and we think it's something that's outside of our control, then it becomes really easy to eat. So I think we do often think about like it's my job, it's the phase that my kids are in, it's my spouse, it's my dog who's always sick and puking on the carpet, right? We're always looking for some circumstance. I think that's normal is to think like if I can change the circumstance, then I won't emotionally eat. And that's what I thought for a long time too. But I have a lot of women, they come to me, they were emotionally eating in their marriage. They're now divorced, but they're still emotionally eating because it's a learned habit, it's a learned behavior and they haven't truly understood the pattern. It's like they thought, well, once I get divorced, then I won't keep doing this. Or another myth is just eat more healthy foods and then you won't emotionally eat. That's not true either because the food is there as that hit of dopamine to feel better. And so if we don't learn how to rewire that pattern and rewire that habit, we're just going to keep going back to it. So it could be a physical ailment. It might be like physically you feel pain in your body and then that has you looking for food to feel better. So there's any number of reasons that we could be reaching for it. I remember being pregnant and having really bad morning sickness that
Mhm.
lasted all day. It was just like pregnancy sickness. It was only about 2 months, but it was miserable. I just constantly felt nauseous. And I had to remind myself ice cream won't make you feel better. Cookies won't make you feel better. You can eat them if you really want them, but like this is not actually going to help you to feel better. It's those little things, the little gentle, loving ways where we can see like this being uncomfortable in my body. Food doesn't solve that. Food doesn't solve our emotions. It solves hunger. And so it's one of the things that it's so common and we want to have a lot of compassion for ourselves, but to make sure we're solving the right problem, if you will. That it's not a food problem, it's not a job problem. It's an underfeeling problem. It is not even so much about the food as it's my resistance to feeling an emotion. And we have to stop lying to ourselves about that because I did that for a long time. I remember taking this course and she basically said the whole time, like all she was saying was like, feel your feelings. And I got to the end of the course and I'm like, I am feeling my feelings. Dang it. Like I was like, and now I'm angry at you for wasting my time and wasting my money. I was like, I'm feeling my emotions. But there was a lot that I was covering up. There was a lot that I was stuffing down. There was a lot that I didn't want to admit about myself, about where I thought I should be, about what I was experiencing. And so that was I wasn't quite ready yet. I was lying. And I'm a very positive person. I'm used to looking at things on the bright side, look at the glass half full. But it's almost like toxic positivity where I have to also be willing to feel disappointed, be willing to feel sad, be willing to feel frustrated, be willing to feel discouraged, be willing to feel the agony and the heartbreak after a breakup. It's like our willingness to feel any emotion is what's going to create peace and safety with you, with your body, with food. But that's usually what we're fighting. And so we just yeah, too so often we keep trying to solve the wrong problem.
Your expectations, I guess.
Yeah.
But we're coming up to the end, and I like to provide my audience with some actionable steps, you know. So what practical steps can our audience who struggle with emotional eating start implementing today? Even two or three that you think would be impactful in starting making small steps.
Yeah, so even just starting to recognize and ask yourself like, am I hungry? Um, that is really helpful and really impactful just to start recognizing like, am I hungry? Have I had enough? is going to really help you to tune into like, where is my body? What is true physical hunger? And then starting to notice, like, okay, I'm not hungry or I am satisfied, but I want to keep eating. And then just start to question why. And the more that we question, even if we don't have an answer in the moment, when we ask our subconscious these questions, it will answer. It wants to find an answer for you. But sometimes we need to kind of step away from something. And so I can't, like with every client, I've asked a question and it might be the next day, it might be the next week. They're like, oh my gosh, it came to me when I was driving down the road, when I was in the shower, when I was, out at the gym, whatever it was. It's like, oh, I thought of it and it clicked. And there's a quote by Carl Jung, and he says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate. And so, just like you said, how a coach can ask questions and get you to, they'll just start asking questions to where you think not intentionally, but almost on autopilot to where the answers will come up, they'll come to you. That is so often like what we need. We need that process and we need somebody sometimes to be able to ask the questions, to be able to prompt us to ask better questions, to ask different questions, to explore things that maybe we didn't even think were connected that are.
So I have been doing all the talking, asking all the questions. I would like you to give your closing remarks because probably you have a special thought you'd like to impart or a statement. This minute is yours. Tell me or tell our audience whatever you want to say, um, and include how they can contact you. If you have any freebie to offer them, but give us your closing thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I feel like I've done so much of the talking here.
We both did, but we are enjoying ourselves. So
Right.
that's
Yeah, no,
the
this
best
this has
part of
been
it.
such a great conversation, and it's like it is not about perfection. This is one of the biggest things that I tell clients. It's not about perfection. If you were already perfect and doing it 100%, you would already have the results that you wanted. You would have the life and the body and the health markers, and you don't need to be perfect in order to create the life and the body that you truly crave. Perfection is not required. And I share this all the time, not to throw anybody under the bus, but to just say, like, I've had clients, they lose 20 pounds, 25 pounds in 3, 4 months, maybe. They're able to keep it off long term without being perfect. They still overeat. They still eat off plan. They still eat sweets. They still, miss the gym some days. They still go on vacation. They're still living their life. And they don't have to be perfect in order to create the results that they want. And so that is my biggest encouragement is like the number one skill to break is this all or nothing thinking. I have to be all in and perfect, doing it 100%. Otherwise, screw it. I've blown it. I've ruined it. And really, life happens in the gray. It happens in the middle. It happens between these two extremes. And when we can become okay with that and we can look at and start to ask, what's the next best step? What's the next best decision? Not what do I need to restrict harder? Not how do I punish myself? How do I make up for this? But what's the next best step? It looks like I get right back on track. The next meal, the next day, whatever that looks like, is like when we bring that to our awareness, it's now here's how I make a 1% improvement. It's not about perfection though. So the more that you can be comfortable making mistakes, not being perfect, and learning from it, the better and the smoother and like the faster you're actually going to go.
As I said before, when I introduced you, I said, let me bring in my remarkable guests who have shown us how to embrace awareness, I would say, and navigate our emotional eating for a healthier heart and mind. So, as we wrap up today's enlightening discussion with Gillian Scott and how emotional eating intricately weaves into our lives, it's clear that understanding the broader picture of our eating habits can empower us to live healthier, more balanced lives. For me, I always talk about high blood pressure. And as we know, it is not just a physical condition, but is deeply influenced by our mental and emotional states as well. We have explored how emotional eating often serves as a coping mechanism, linking deeply to how we perceive stress, happiness, or even boredom. Importantly, though, Acknowledging these patterns, becoming aware of the triggers can be the first step towards managing them effectively. Jillian has shared some invaluable insights and practical strategies that we can all start implementing in our daily lives, whether it's through mindfulness techniques, seeking support, or simply being kinder to ourselves. There is no single path to wellness. It's about finding what suits us or you best individually. Remember, it's not just about curbing behaviors, but also about nurturing our emotional health alongside our physical well being. So let's commit to taking small, manageable steps towards understanding our relationship with food better, striving toward a balanced lifestyle that respects both our bodies and minds. So, thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. If this conversation has resonated well with you, share it with loved ones and join our community as we continue to explore more on living a heart healthy life. Stay tuned for our next episode where we will delve into more insights and tips to support your health journey. Until then, take care, nourish your heart, and live well. And I will be inputting the link on the a web page on how you can contact Jillian and see how she can help you on your journey. Because we're here to help each other in whatever way we can. So, bye for now, and we'll talk soon.